How beginners can improve at drawing. These 5 tips to improve your manga and comic drawings can be applied to a whole bunch of different subject matters. When we're first learning to draw, it can be a bit overwhelming. Where do we start? If you watch enough videos and read a whole bunch of blogs on drawing, you keep seeing the same thing. You have to learn the fundamentals.
Bro, you gotta learn the fundamentals. You have to get those fundamentals down. Like, seriously, you gotta learn the fundamentals.
And yes, this is 100% accurate, but the implementation can be a bit of a mystery. If you're anything like me, the clear application of simple skills to complex subjects can kind of be a bit of a mystery. In this video, I'm going to give a kind critique to a subscriber's drawing, and we can use this critique as a lesson for all of us. Check out his YouTube channel and follow his progress. In his comment to me, he mentioned that he was struggling with how to implement basic shapes into his work. He made a great effort in his drawing of Captain America. His work shows a lot of promise, and with a little bit of focused study and effort, his work will improve drastically. I like the attitude that he gave Cap, and the pose is fun. I've redrawn the pose to get a better understanding of where I can help and give the best tips. If you're interested in me reviewing your work publicly, DM me the image on Instagram.
What's up? Timothy Jan here. I'm a draftsman, painter, and a teacher, making videos to improve your art. Let's learn something. Proportion. When drawing a figure, you want to consider the proportion of the figure. We can draw Captain America around 8 heads tall and get an idealized figure. In superheroes, the proportion becomes a bit more idealized. To make the hero appear more heroic, artists don't allow reality to ruin their drawings. Superman can be drawn 9 to 10 heads tall. In reality, the figure is roughly 7.5 heads tall. Of course, this can be broken down for your artistic interpretation. In learning, it may be helpful to you long-term to learn one proportion or canon confidently so that you can rely on that in your future work. After you really understand it, you can begin to confidently break the canon and build your own style. Many manga and comic artists have stretched the figure out to great effect. If you're looking for a place to start learning more about this, Andrew Loomis and George Bridgman have good examples of sound proportion in their books. The second skill to improve is core shapes. After assessing this drawing of Captain America, one of the major skills that you can improve is building primitives. I had a hard time with this when I first started drawing. One of the reasons was I was reluctant to do the work to improve because I could not see how it affected my work. I just wanted to do the fun stuff. Not taking the time to understand the spatial relations of the core solids really slowed my learning down. To improve at this, start with your primitives. You will need to practice drawing these core shapes until they are committed to muscle memory. You may ask, how many cubes, cylinders, spheres, and cones should I draw? Way more than you think. When you think you've drawn enough, double it. You want to build muscle memory on these forms to continue to build your spatial awareness. Now, here is how this affects your drawing. By combining these shapes, you can learn how to represent spatially the elements in your drawing. Before we do that, we need to work on one more skill. The third skill to improve is 3 dimensions. When you have your shapes drawn in their proper proportion, you want to give consideration to the thickness of the material that makes the forms. In assessing your drawing, I noticed that the forms you are drawing lack depth. This is very common for beginner artists. To correct this, let's start simple. We can begin by drawing some ribbons and giving them some thickness. We can add a little value to help show the planes that don't receive the light equally. To further build this new skill, you can try a simple series of wrapping core solids. Let's start with a box and note the 3 visible planes. Now, let's wrap that box with a stripe. We can now add thickness to our stripe and turn it into a solid in 3D space. We can add a little value to show dimension. We can enhance this and tilt the second box by changing its angles. Now we have to give it some thickness. What if we go a little farther and made a box floating around a box? And let's indicate our shadows. You can also wrap around a cylinder. These simple examples and skills will help you draw more complex objects. With our fourth tip, building forms with primitives, Now that you have gained more confidence in your core primitives, we can apply it to something in our drawings. Let's dissect the captain's belt. It's composed of a belt, belt buckle, and containers. We can consider the belt as a section of a cylinder, with a cylinder punched through the center. The belt buckle can be carved out of a narrow rectangle. We can indicate the latch. You can add flourishes to the end of it. The containers are a bit more difficult, but let's break them down. The design of the containers on Captain's belt vary quite a bit, but I will show you how I built the one in my drawing. We can start with a box. Now we need to attach the lid to the box. Before we do that, let's look at an orthographical view of the lid. By looking at the shape in a flat view, we remove any misunderstandings of perspective and can more easily understand the shape. The lid can be composed of a rectangle and a triangle. Above this is a skinny rectangle with the ends beveled. You can note the orientation on the end of the lid in relation to the underlying box. As we go back to a 3D view of the container, we can imagine that that lid is a cylinder cut in half, with the latch protruding off the bottom. As we go on to refine this brings us back to our previous lesson of adding depth. The final skill to give attention to is building a drawing. In the beginning, you can use mannequins and rough layers to build your drawing. This can be done digitally with layers in Photoshop, or in an analog way with tracing paper. It's easy when you're drawing digitally to do an underlying steps to help you get to your finished drawing. They can be as developed as you need them to be to understand what your finished drawing is built on. Remember that you're doing those stages for further understanding, and you don't have to show them to anybody, so take them as far as you want. Over time, you may not need to do these building stages, but if you're just starting out, these will be very helpful. Keep up the good work, and I hope you found this helpful. See you in the next video.